Hi, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about Part of Your World and Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So I finally read Part of Your World. It had been on my TBR for the longest time. I finally got to it, mainly because I really wanted to read Yours Truly. I had been seeing everyone talk about this book and it seemed like everyone loved it. And then while I was reading Yours Truly, I decided to do a reading vlog for it. So this video is going to kind of be two parts. The first part of this video is going to be me sitting here talking about Part of Your World, giving all of my thoughts on it and kind of my full review on this book. And then the second part of this video is going to be a reading vlog for Yours Truly. So that one was filmed a little bit differently. It's filmed kind of in parts as I read this book. I did just finish filming that reading vlog actually, so now I'm kind of going back and filming my book review for Part of Your World. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be. I'm obviously going to share what these books are all about, kind of share my thoughts on them. It is going to be spoiler free. I am going to obviously talk about what I thought about these books, but I'm not going to go in depth into what actually happens in them. But yeah, obviously these books are both by Abby Jimenez. Now that I've read these two, I am all caught up with her books. I've read everything that she's written so far, and I've loved all of her books so far. Like, they've all been so good. So she's definitely an auto-buy author for me. Like, I'll read anything she writes. I just think she writes the most perfect rom-coms. Like, they're always just so fun and like just they're cute stories, they're really funny, but then she also adds these kind of more like emotional things to them. Like, there's always something else going on in her stories. It just kind of has that perfect balance of them being kind of like this like funny, lighthearted story, but also having some more serious topics in there, and she just does it so well. So I just really enjoy her books. So yeah, obviously starting with Part of Your World, I'm going to kind of go into this book, share what it's all about, and give my review on it like I said. So this book follows Alexis and Daniel, and so the tropes for this one are age gap. She's 10 years older than him. I think he's like 28, and then she is 37 and she turns 38. And then this one also is kind of opposites attract and also has a small town setting. And so in this book, Alexis is a doctor living in a big city, and then Daniel is a carpenter. He lives in this really tiny town, and basically Alexis kind of passes through that town one night. She has some car troubles. Daniel helps her out. They end up running into each other again at the bar in town. She ends up going home with him, and they just end up having a one-night stand, and it basically goes from there. She obviously kind of decides that they're too different. She lives like 2 hours away. There's no way anything could ever happen between them or anything could work between them, but she's also very interested in him and he's very interested in her. So like I said, I absolutely loved this book. I got into the story right away. Like, it starts off really good and I was just into it the whole time. Like, I really enjoyed reading this one. I thought the characters were great. I did really like Alexis a lot. I really loved seeing her development and just kind of seeing the way she learned to stand up for herself and figure out what she wants. And then Daniel, I absolutely loved him. He was just so sweet. I think like all of the male main characters that Abby Jimenez writes, she writes really great book boyfriends. Like, they're always just so sweet. They're just such good characters, and I just really like that. Like, I love that she always writes these like really great characters that are just like genuinely like good people. I also loved the side characters. I loved Alexis's friendship with Bree, which Bree is obviously the main character for the second book, so it was a lot of fun seeing that, seeing her have kind of like a good relationship in her life. And then I also liked his friends too. Like, he had some really good people around him that really supported him, and of course he lives in this small town where everyone knows everyone and they're all basically like this big family. So I just really liked the whole small town setting and them kind of having this community together. And of course I loved the relationship between Alexis and Daniel. I just thought it was a really sweet relationship. Like, just the way that they were with each other, the way that he was kind of like this safe space for her to go to because she just is dealing with a lot in her life. I don't know, I just really loved all the little moments between them, of them just kind of spending time with each other and just doing really simple things. I just loved the whole idea of their relationship kind of developing from what started as a one-night stand. This book, I will say, did get a little bit frustrating at times. Obviously a huge conflict in this story is the fact that they can't really be together, and so it got a little bit frustrating, but also I feel like it was very understandable. I also wasn't expecting this book to get so deep. I feel like I kind of forgot the way Abby Jimenez writes her stories before going into this book. I just really loved all the different topics that it went into. Like I said, I wasn't really expecting them, but it was something that I really liked that was added into this book, and I feel like it was done really well, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. So I loved this book so much. I of course rated it 5 stars, and by the time I was done with this one, it had me really excited to go into the next book. So yeah, like I said, my next part of this video is going to be my reading vlog for Yours Truly, but before we get into that part of the video, which has already been filmed, I do just want to share kind of what this book is all about. So in this book we're following Bree and Jacob, and so Bree was introduced obviously in Part of Your World. She is Alexis's best friend, and so she's also a doctor, and Jacob just got a job at the same hospital that she works at, so he's obviously a new doctor there, and things don't really start off that great for him. A lot of the people there don't really like him, especially Bree. She just kind of decides from the beginning beginning that he's really rude and she can't stand him, but then things kind of change one day because he writes her a letter and she kind of starts to realize that he's not as bad as she thought he was. And so eventually the two of them start kind of talking back and forth. They're giving letters to each other and they're just kind of getting to know each other a little bit better. We do find out that Bree has a brother who is in need of a kidney, and so they've been looking for a kidney donor. That is kind of mentioned in Part of Your World, so you kind of get a more in-depth look at what's going on with that in this book. And so eventually Jacob ends up offering his kidney for her brother. So yeah, it kind of just goes from there. Like I said, I just want to quickly share what this book is about before going into the reading vlog for this one. So right now I am on chapter 18, which is about a third of the way through the book, and I'm really loving it so far. I feel like I knew from the beginning that I was really gonna like this book just from the way it started out. This one I think was just really good from the first chapter. Like, I was already into the story and I was invested and I wanted to know what was gonna happen. I didn't really know too much about this book going into it. With the first book in the series, Part of Your World, I kind of knew a little bit about that one going into it. Like, I kind of knew what to expect with it. I did obviously read it over a year after it came out, so I had seen people talking about it. Like, I knew stuff that was gonna happen in it, and that story kind of went like the way I was expecting it to, you know? Whereas with this one, I pretty much knew nothing about it, so going into it, I had no idea where the story was gonna go. I just kind of knew the basic things from the synopsis, and I really liked that. Like, I'm glad that I didn't know too much because I feel like that made it even more interesting when I started it and kind of got to read a little bit more about these characters and see for myself the way the story was gonna develop. But yeah, like I said, this one has been really good so far. I'm really liking these characters a lot. Bree, I think she was a really great character in the first book. Like, I really liked her. I loved the friendship between her and Alexis, so I really love just seeing a little bit more about her, seeing more about her life, what's going on with her, especially with her and her brother. I feel like she comes across as a very like dedicated and caring person. You can tell that she's really dedicated to her job and she just really cares about the people in her life. So like I said, I do really like getting to know her a little bit more. And then of course Jacob, he is the other main character and I really love him a lot so far. I just think he's a really amazing character. I love that he's just like genuinely a good person. Like, he does nice things for people just because he wants to. Like, that's just the type of person he is, and I just really love that about this character. And another thing I'm really loving a lot so far about this book is the anxiety representation with him. I think it's been done really well so far from what I've read. Obviously I can't speak for everyone, and like not everyone's situation or experience with anxiety is the same, but like I said, so far what I've read in this book, I just think it's been done really well. I really love the way it's written and the way it's described. Just some of the stuff he talks about and thinks about, and like the way he overthinks everything. I just really like reading that because it just feels very relatable. And some of the stuff that I'm reading, I feel like it's just been taken directly from my mind. And like, there's just so many quotes in this book that I have been highlighting because I just relate to them or I just really love them. And it's been a really good book so far. And I'm only like 130 pages in, but obviously this book kind of starts off with the characters not really liking each other, it seems. Like, she kind of makes some assumptions about him in the beginning and she doesn't really like him, but of course she does start to get to know him and eventually it does kind of develop into a friendship between them. And so I really love the way that that's developing. So the point where I left off, some new plot related stuff is kind of developing. Obviously one of the big plot points of this book is Jacob giving his kidney to Bree's brother. So at the point that I'm at now, the plot is kind of picking up a little bit more. We're seeing that. We're seeing some other stuff develop that I didn't know was going to be a part of this book. So I'm excited to see where the rest of the story goes, and of course I will continue to update as I read the book. Okay, so I'm now on chapter 34, so I am kind of getting closer to the end of the book. I'm like 70% through. I decided to stop at the point that I'm at just so I can share my thoughts as of now right before I finish the rest of the book. But anyway, at the point that I left off, like I said, there was some stuff happening that I wasn't really expecting with this story. So we get to see a little bit more of these characters and get to see more of their lives, I guess. So I really liked seeing their families. Like, he has a really big and like supportive family and she has a good family too. A lot of the book has just been kind of developing their relationship, which I really love. I love seeing them like spending time together and getting to know each other and kind of opening up to each other. They're telling each other a lot of things that they probably don't normally talk about, or just things that they don't like share with everyone, you know? So I just really love seeing them being just comfortable around each other and like feeling okay to open up to each other. It's really sweet like reading that aspect of their relationship. And of course their feelings for each other are kind of developing, but I do really love that both of them really put in the effort for each other. Especially Jacob, he's kind of doing things outside of his comfort zone to show up for her and show her that he cares about her. So I really love seeing that, him being able to do things that he's normally not comfortable with, but because it's her, like, he feels okay doing them. And I also really love that she recognizes it too. Like, she knows that he's going out of his comfort zone and she realizes that that's a big deal for him and she like appreciates it. Like, that's really nice to see that she actually sees what he's doing. And of course she's also putting in the effort for him and being there for him as well, and that's why he's even able to do those things, because he knows that she's gonna show up for him too. And I really love their relationship so far. Like, it's just so sweet, like the way they are with each other. I feel like this book is a very slow burn, but it's like done really well. There's all these moments between them that are making it so good to where I didn't even realize like how slow the burn was, basically. And it's not really something that I thought about until I got to a certain point in the book and like realized it. And I feel like that's a good thing because, like I said, it's just been a lot of like little moments that really add to the story and add to their relationship and just make it even better. Like, once the slow burn ends, it's gonna be so good. But anyway, I feel like I left off on a really good part and I'm really excited to continue on and see how the rest of the book goes. Like, I feel like it's gonna be so good. I'm going to love it, hopefully. This book has been amazing so far. I've really enjoyed it a lot. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish the book now, and then I'll share my final thoughts once I'm done. So I'm now done with yours truly, so of course I want to share my final thoughts on it. Obviously, I loved this book. I was loving it while I was reading it, and by the end I just loved it even more. It was such a good book. I think this book is my favorite by Abby Jimenez so far. I just really loved Bree and Jacob's relationship, and like I said, I really loved seeing what Jacob went through with his anxiety. I know I kind of talked about that earlier, but I just thought that whole aspect of the story was done really well. There was just so many quotes that I feel like perfectly described anxiety and like what it feels like. It was just one of my favorite things about this book, and just seeing like the way she understood him and kind of knew what he needed and she helped him out through that. But also not just that, like it wasn't just her doing things for him, like he helped her as well and he helped her work through things that she was dealing with. So I really loved that, like the way they were together and just like the way he loved her. Like, it was just really sweet reading that. And I also really like that they kind of start off as friends, you know, like they're just kind of getting to know each other. They are kind of liking each other, but there's also not really anything romantic between them. Like, they genuinely just like each other as people and they become friends first and then they kind of start to fall for each other. So I just thought this book was so good. There was a few little moments in there that were like a little bit frustrating with like some miscommunication, but I mean, it was still a really amazing book. I really loved the ending. I thought it was done so well. It was just such a nice ending to this book. And also, you do see the title kind of tied in at one point in the book, and I absolutely loved where it came in. It was just so good. So this one was another 5-star read, and honestly, it's one of my favorites so far from this year of all the books that I've read. So I'm really glad that I loved both of these books. They were both 5-star reads. They were both just so well written. Like I said, I love Abby Jimenez, so I kind of had a feeling I would enjoy these books going into them. But yeah, that was my book review and reading vlog for Part of Your World and yours truly. Let me know any of your thoughts on either of these books, and that's it for this video. If you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.